There is a specific texture to your silence. It is not the peaceful silence of a monk or the focused silence of a hunter. It is the breathless, high-tension silence of a trespasser who is terrified of waking the homeowner. You walk into a room, and your first instinct is to scan the emotional temperature, adjusting your posture, your tone, and even your breathing pattern to ensure you disturb the atmosphere as little as possible. You have become an expert at shrinking. You sit in a way that minimizes your physical footprint. You speak in a register that suggests your opinions are actually questions, asking for permission to be heard. But the most damning symptom is the apology. It spills out of you like a reflex, bypassing your conscious mind entirely. You apologize when someone else bumps into you. You apologize for taking too long to order coffee. You apologize for having needs, for being tired, for feeling pain. Whatever you think this is, social anxiety, politeness, or perhaps a lingering trauma response, you are looking at the symptoms, not the pathogen. Carl Jung, looking at the architecture of your psyche, would identify this not as a virtue, but as a dangerous structural collapse of the ego. You are suffering from what I call existential trespassing. You have convinced yourself that your very existence is a violation of someone else's space. You act as though you have stolen your life and are waiting for the authorities to come and reclaim it. Jung argued that this state of being is not merely low self-esteem. It is a profound disconnection from the self. When you apologize for existing, you are unconsciously signaling to the tribe and to the predatory elements of the world that you possess no territory, you defend no boundaries, and you have voluntarily severed your connection to your own aggression. In the modern world, we call this being considerate. In the wild, deeper reality of the unconscious, this is a signal of decay. It is the psychology of the prey animal. However, modern neuroscience offers us a terrifying validation of Jung's intuition here. When you engage in this behavior, your brain is not merely being polite. You are activating what neuroscientists call the Dorsal Vagal Shutdown. It is a primitive evolutionary state. Your nervous system, perceiving that asserting yourself is life-threatening, drops you into a functional freeze response. You are playing dead while still walking. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic, is dampened, while your amygdala remains in hypervigilance, scanning for rejection. You are chemically flooding your body with cortisol, not because you are in danger, but because you are trying to suppress the immense energy of your own soul. This is the paradox Jung wanted you to see. It takes more energy to suppress your existence than it does to live it. You are exhausted not because you are doing too much, but because you are holding back a tsunami. You are containing a force of nature within a frame of glass. Jung realized that this compulsive apology is actually a defense mechanism against your own shadow. The shadow contains everything you have rejected about yourself: your rage, your selfishness, your hunger for power, and your capacity for destruction. Because you have been taught that these things are evil, you have repressed them into the unconscious. But here is the mechanism that traps you. The more you repress your capacity for evil or aggression, the more you fear that you are secretly a monster. You apologize constantly because, on a subconscious level, you feel guilty. You feel guilty for the dark thoughts you bury. You apologize to the world to preemptively ask for forgiveness for the monster you believe you are hiding. You have developed the benevolent camouflage. You present yourself as harmless to hide the fact that you feel dangerous. But by cutting off your danger, you have cut off your vitality. Let us look at a case that mirrors your own. Jung often spoke of patients who suffered from a loss of soul, but one specific archetype appears frequently. Let's call him Arthur. Arthur was a man of high intelligence and mild manners. He was the person everyone relied on. Yet, Arthur described his life as living behind a pane of glass. He felt he couldn't touch the world, and the world couldn't touch him. Arthur told Jung that he felt like a fraud. He believed that if people saw who he really was, judgmental, angry, ambitious, they would cast him out. So, Arthur perfected the art of non-existence. He agreed with everyone. He never initiated conflict. He apologized for existing. Jung did not coddle Arthur. He told Arthur that his harmlessness was not a virtue, it was a lie. By refusing to show his teeth, Arthur was not being good, he was being weak. And in Jungian psychology, weakness is not the same as morality. A rabbit is not good because it doesn't eat the wolf, it is simply a rabbit. To be truly good, one must have the capacity to be a monster and then choose to control it. Arthur was suffering from the unlived life toxicity. Jung observed that when a person refuses to individuate, that unlived energy turns inward and attacks the host. It manifests as autoimmune disorders, chronic fatigue, and pervasive guilt. This is where mirror neurons become critical. Humans are wired to mimic the emotions of those around them. When you constantly apologize and shrink, you broadcast a signal of low status to everyone you meet. You are literally training people to treat you as insignificant. You are projecting a blueprint of your own worthlessness, and then you are hurt when the world builds the structure you designed. The brain tracks social hierarchy through the serotonin system. When you apologize for existing, you are manually depressing your own serotonin levels. You are chemically lobotomizing your own potential to keep the tribe happy, but the cost is high. As Jung warned, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. You apologize because you are terrified of the responsibility that comes with existing. If you stop apologizing, you have to stand behind your actions. You have to occupy your space. You have to cast a shadow. And casting a shadow means you will block someone else's light. This is the truth you are running from. You cannot exist without displacing something else. To breathe, you consume oxygen. To eat, something must die. To succeed, someone else may fail. This is the nature of life, and your refusal to accept this ontological cost is what keeps you small. But there is a path out of this labyrinth. It requires us to diagnose the specific type of apologist you have become. Listen closely. Which one are you? Type 1. The ghost in waiting. You believe that if you make yourself small enough, you will be rewarded with safety. You perform acts of service out of transactional desperation. You listen to others, absorbing their trauma, banking karma that does not exist. Jung would say you are possessed by the negative Senex energy. You become a vacuum, draining energy because you are a bottomless pit of unspoken expectation. Type 2. The chameleon reflex. When you enter a conversation, you bring a mirror, not a personality. You scan the other person and instantly reconfigure your psyche to match them. You think this is empathy, but it is identity dissociation. Your anterior cingulate cortex perceives disagreement as a survival threat. You have become everyone and no one simultaneously. Type 3. The preemptive defendant. You live in a constant state of trial. You explain your actions before anyone has asked. You are suffering from the panopticon delusion. You believe you are constantly being judged, so you offer your defense strategy before the prosecution has even arrived. You are fighting a war that exists entirely within your imagination. If you recognize yourself, understand this. It is a slow suicide of the soul. If you continue, you risk triggering enantiodromia, the law of psychological opposites. The person who suppresses anger for 40 years eventually explodes. The shadow will not be silenced. If you do not invite it to the table, it will burn down the house. You will wake up one day and see a stranger in the mirror who was nice, polite, and completely hollow. So, how do we stop the apology and start the existence? The solution is not confidence, it is individuation. fusing the polite ego with the dangerous shadow to create a complete human being. You must stop trying to be good and start trying to be whole. We begin with the verbal ceasefire. You must audit your language. The word sorry is banned unless you have caused harm. When someone bumps into you, you stand still. You allow the awkwardness to exist. You let the feeling burn. This is exposure therapy. You replace "I'm sorry" with "thank you." Instead of "sorry I'm late," say "thank you for waiting." It moves you from a position of debt to a position of gratitude. Next, engage in shadow retrieval. Look to your resentments. Why are you angry at the colleague who got promoted? That ambition you envy is your gold. It is wrapped in mud, but it is yours. You must clean it off and integrate it. We are aiming for the sovereign ego, an ego that refuses to be dominated. Modern neuroscience supports this. When you assert a boundary, you release dopamine. You physically restructure your brain from a defensive posture, amygdala, to an explorative posture, prefrontal cortex. But be warned, there will be social recoil. People who benefited from your smallness will be confused. They will say you have changed. Do not be gaslit. This is the friction of ascent. An airplane shakes violently as it breaks the sound barrier. Turbulence is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of breaking through to a new altitude. You must develop the Teflon soul. Their disappointment is not your crime. And here is the secret. The world craves your authority. We are drowning in a sea of polite, terrified people. When someone owns their shadow and occupies their space, it is magnetic. You stop being a burden and start being a pillar. But let us zoom out. Consider the sheer improbability of your presence. For you to sit here, breathing, a continuous line of ancestors had to survive ice ages, plagues, wars, and starvations. They fought, they bled, and they claimed their space in a hostile world. They did not apologize for existing. When you apologize for being here, you are committing the ancestral insult. You are looking at the billions of years of evolutionary struggle and saying, "This was a mistake." You are rejecting the gift. This rejection creates cognitive dissonance. Your biology wants to live, but your mind tells a story of unworthiness. To resolve this, align your mind with the brutal reality of nature. Nature does not apologize. A storm does not apologize for the ruin. A tree does not apologize for blocking the sun. They follow the law of necessity. You must replace "is this allowed" with "this is required." You must actively invite the archetypal anointing. Practice the occupational gaze. Don't scan for threats, scan for territory. Reverse the flow of observation. Your reticular activating system will shift. You will stop seeing rejection and start seeing opportunity. You must be willing to let the nice person die. Hold a funeral for the version of you that needed to be liked. As Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And who you truly are is not sorry. Who you truly are is a force of nature that has been dammed up for decades. And the dam is beginning to crack. There is one final step. It requires you to look at the very concept of existing differently. You treat existence as a loan you have to pay back with servitude. But existence is not a loan. It is not a test. It is a collision. Stop apologizing for the impact.